Well, hello there. Today I'm doing a bit of a deep dive into this book that I had started a bit earlier. This is a book by Gary Keller. Gary Keller is like one of the biggest real estate moguls out. He started Keller Williams, the real estate company. Um, and yeah, at last, I think late last year, they surpassed $2 billion in profits in North America alone. And considering that they probably just one of the biggest real estate companies in the world, I think it's worth noting just a few things that he shares in his book. Made some few notes here. Now, the first one is the focusing question. The focusing question is basically, what is the one thing? One thing is a question that Gary says you need to just focus on and think about. The question is, what's the one thing that you need to do such that by doing it, everything else is just easier and or unnecessary? And yeah, that's a very, very interesting question to ask and to think about because it's actually quite difficult to do in practice because sometimes everything seems important. Um, but there is just that one thing. So sometimes the one thing, as he says, the one thing is actually to think about what is the one thing. So sometimes it takes a bit of a while just to think about what that actually is. What is that one thing for you? Such that immediately after doing that one thing, everything else is just a bit easier. Um, so now, one of the main ideas in this book, what he actually said was he referred to an experiment by a professor, a physics professor called Dean Whitehead. Basically, the professor was just saying something like, "Oh no, actually, he did an experiment in physics where he lined up uh, dominoes, right? So basically, a couple of dominoes, say 6 or 7 of them dominoes or whatever. So with each domino that came after the one preceding it, the next one will be like 1.5 times bigger than the one preceding it. So that's how it would actually line up the experiment. So um, it would actually start with like the first domino, maybe like something like very small, something like almost like this. I mean, small enough where to even like take it down, he would use like something like a toothpick or something like that. And yeah, so basically, um, the idea was that a small domino compounded over time um, with the other with obviously the other dominoes lined up with the next one just being 1.5 times bigger than the next one being 1.5 times bigger than the next one, and so forth. Um, eventually, the force that eventually came out of that was something that brought down like a domino that was very big, like maybe twice the size of a human and uh, like a big amount of weight or so. So basically, his idea was that um, yes, a domino, like the first domino, might seem small, but um, if you line up enough dominoes, with each domino, the preceding domino, helping you to bring down the next domino, um, eventually you have a force strong enough just to bring down something like big, which is basically the idea behind the one thing. But what is that first kind of domino that will help you just to bring down the next domino? Which is why the idea is um, what is the domino that if, or the one thing such that if you do it, everything else becomes easier or necessary. And yeah, basically that's just one of the ideas. So yeah, I wrote some few notes here. The first one is the 6 lies, right? Um, that everything matters equally. So basically, what he was just arguing here is that um, there are some things that are more important than others. If you have heard of anything about the 80-20 rule, which says 20% of results, no, 80% of results come from 20% of effort, right? And then basically this was just something that was noticed by, I forgot who came up with this rule, or who actually noticed this, that like in most things, and even in nature, 20% of results come from, I mean, 80% of results come from 20%. So similarly, even in organizations, 80% of results come from 20% of the workforce, and so forth and so forth. So he took it even further than that to say it's actually, you can actually make that even smaller, more some along the lines of 10% of results. I mean, 90% of results will actually come from 10% of the effort, and even more smaller than that, one thing will actually produce massive results. So yeah, basically some of the examples that he was laying down is just um, great musicians that have been around throughout history. Some of the great musicians who've been really great at like music and whatnot. When he looked at them, he would actually realize that they would actually spend hours and hours and years and decades actually learning music, practicing music, doing music, to the point where they became whoever they are, whatever the Michael Jackson, whoever, whatever the name that you can think of. So basically, um, that one thing is what actually brought results. Um, them just doing one thing over and over and over again over a long enough period of time is what actually brought them results, and the whatever success that they achieved. So yeah, the next point in the 6 lies that he came up with was about multitasking. So he basically just argued that multitasking actually doesn't work because you can't chase 2 rabbits. If you chase 2 rabbits, you won't even be able to catch one. Um, yeah, because they will be running around in different directions and whatnot. And then how do you catch two rabbits at the same time? So basically, it's like you need to focus on one rabbit and catch that rabbit, or focus on trying to catch one rabbit. That's the one strategy that can actually work. Um, he also spoke about willpower. That one of the big misconceptions is that you need a lot of willpower to achieve a lot of things that you want to achieve, or if you want to achieve some things. So he basically says that it actually doesn't quite work that way. It's not a massive amount of willpower. It's actually a smallish amount of willpower, enough that is focused on one specific thing, um, up until that thing becomes more of a habit, um, and grows from there, kind of thing. So that was just one of the things that he was arguing about that. Um, Now, one of the tools that he recommended that you would use is something called time blocking. Time blocking is basically just uh, blocking off a period in your calendar, or a period in your day, where you actually dedicate yourself to doing that whatever one thing is that you've actually decided that it is. Okay, I want to achieve XYZ, or I want to do task ABC. I've identified my one thing. If I do this thing for a specific period of time, over a period of time, then everything else just becomes easier or necessary. Um, so yeah, that's basically time blocking. But he he does give like a kind of like a recommendation as to how long that should be. He recommends about 4 hours a day that you need to at least block that off for your one thing. Um, and then over a long enough period of time, um, that accumulates to just something much larger, much larger. Those 4 hours over a long enough period of time. Um, yeah, so that's just basically what he was talking about there. You need to just block off enough time in a day, every day, to some to the one thing that you've identified that okay, I need to do this, such that after I've completed this actual task, everything else, all other tasks, won't have, I won't struggle much with them. Um, and then another thing that he spoke about was that um, if you, what most people do, they put um, a list together to do a to-do list, kind of like on a daily basis, kind of thing, or a monthly, weekly basis, or whatever period of time that you can think of. And he was just talking about the problem with the to-do list is everything on a to-do list seems important, but most people actually um, go on ahead to actually work on mostly some of the easier things on the to-do list, because obviously you just knock them down and then you feel productive, kind of thing. But he says the problem with that is that it makes it as if everything is of equal importance on a to-do list. There are some things on there that are more important than others, and he, in particular, there's one thing that's the most important that you should be doing first before you do anything else. So that's kind of like the thing that he was just talking about, that you need to block off a large enough amount of time every day, about 4 hours or so, that he would recommend, where you would actually work on that thing on your to-do list before you even try to do anything else on your to-do list. Um, yeah, that's basically what he spoke about there. So now, um, the recommendations or actions that he would give, or he gave, run about closer to the end of the book. He was just saying you need to identify your one thing, regularly ask that focusing question, and identify the most important task in your personal life, in your professional life. You need to block off time of your calendar, schedule and dedicate time each day to work on that one thing, protecting this time from distractions, because he spoke a lot about distractions, and just you have to fend off another distractions and make sure that they don't veer you off the path. You need to learn to build productive habits, focus on developing a few key habits that support your one thing, rather than trying to be disciplined in every aspect of your life. Prioritize willpower, tackle your most important task when your willpower is highest, especially in the morning. And then lastly, he said you need to think big. Don't limit your potential, set ambitious goals, and believe in your ability to achieve them. And in conclusion, the one thing provides a clear and actionable framework for achieving extraordinary results by simplifying your focus. By understanding and applying its principles, individuals can cut through the clutter, eliminate distractions, and concentrate their efforts on what truly matters, leading to greater productivity, success, and fulfillment. So yeah, that's just some few notes that I jotted down. This is one of my favorite books. Actually, fun fact, I actually have it in like different formats. I have like the audio book, I have the physical book, I have like the Kindle version, and yeah, it's one of my favorite books. Probably I'd probably put it top 10 books of all time for me. And yeah, grab a copy for yourself, read through it, and write down below and tell me what you think. Is it as great as I say, or am I just blowing smoke? Anyway, cheers.